Welcome to the very first meeting of the Corporate Services Committee on Tuesday, 21st of May. Item 22. Does anybody have any declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interests? No. Karen, we have some apologies for absence.
This has been received from Councillors Brindle, Jefferson and Stirrup.
Thank you very much. Item 24, minutes from the former Finance and Personnel Committee that met on the 19th of March. They're included in your packs. Are you all happy that they are a true and accurate record? Agreed, thank you. Item 25, this will be an agenda item on all the committees, seeing as we've been restructured to agree on new terms of reference, largely similar to the previous terms of reference, but there's a few additions because we've got a few additional responsibilities. Alan's very helpfully put the major changes in yellow. Do you want to just take us through the highlighted bits, Alan, just sort of pick out anything that is worth noting?
What I try to do is just set out all the functional areas that the committees are responsible for, in terms of it being quite comprehensive in terms of personnel and being quite comprehensive in terms of finance. What I've done is I've just looked at the other roles and responsibilities of the committee, and I've just developed roles there. Information technology, I've developed that a little bit further on. I've then kind of aggregated some of the other ones, like the insurance and risk management, because they are very interlinked, and I didn't want to write pages and pages just for the sake of it. But I've just gone on and actually set out for each of the core functions under the chart that we had that was approved at the last full council, and just developed that. And then I've tried to be very brave and put the policies that the committee reviews and approves, and to find that listing, I'm not too sure it's as comprehensive as it should be, but I've hunted everywhere, high and low, and I've actually put those policies in. I've treated the staff handbook as a policy because, unfortunately, if you go to our website, you'll see some of the old, policies that relate to HR. They're actually all redundant through the staff handbook. The media policy that fixed that as a policy. And if you wouldn't mind treating that, I know you can't do that as a committee, but we will treat this as a little bit of a work in progress, and over the period of time, we will actually develop it. I was going to be even more ambitious and put delegations to the officers, because I think that would be very helpful. But unfortunately, there's only 24 hours in a day, and I just couldn't get around to doing it before this needed to be finalised.
Okay. So it's a snapshot in time.
It's a snapshot.
Is everybody happy with the reviewed terms of reference as they are? Yeah. Thank you.
As a work in progress.
As a work in progress. And I think it will be, for all the committees, it will be similar. We're required to recommend the terms of reference to full council. So on that basis, can I have a proposer and a seconder? David and Ron, thank you. Too slow, Chris. Okay. All in agreement?
Yeah.
Approved. Thank you for putting those together, Alan. Item 26, we have the contracts update, which hasn't progressed too much, unfortunately. Not spending any more large chunks of money.
I think what I've tried to do is just keep, because these projects are still ongoing, we're going to have payments going through at some stage, and it's just a matter of just saying, well, where did they actually relate to? So the only one that I've added is the 85523 that was approved at the April 24 for council meeting. Remember, we suspended financial regulations so we could get that done as part of the bigger Guildhall project. But I will say, when the Guildhall project is gone, I think we can go back to being a legally compliant council from a procurement perspective. We've had to kind of circumvent so much of the, not circumvent, we've had to respond to the emergency nature of some of this expenditure, and the fact that there are limited suppliers available to do the work.
So just picking on a couple of them, because I know some of them have progressed quite rapidly. The replacement boiler in the Guildhall, that was 6 weeks, granted in April, or was it March? I know that the Cadent have done the gas and there's been a whole load of work. Is that one almost complete now?
It is almost complete. We had to wait. Cadent did the gas. We had to get SSE back in, and we had to pay them up front before they would come to put in a new meter. That they finished last week. And Austin Heating have been there every day this week, and they don't leave until they've actually finished that particular assignment. So hopefully that will be within the next week or so, rather than months, which is what we usually talk about.
Yep. And I won't ask about the tower and the dormer because there was quite a full update about that at full council, which I thought was really useful. When we reviewed this table in the past, I think we spoke about a column indicating where the money was coming from.
Good.
And in most, I think every case on there, it's coming from reserves, but
yeah,
not all contracts are funded by reserves. So I think that's quite useful. Everybody happy to note the contracts update? Thank you. Item 27 then is the approval of payments. Presumably this is 2 months worth of payments.
Can you go on the screen? Can I just backtrack one back to the contracts? Did you say that the scaffolding is now capped, or is that still on ongoing cost? I think, didn't you say they've decided to cap it at a certain price point now?
What they've done is we have to pay for a little bit of redesign because they've removed all the internal ones and they're building a workstation for the contractors to do the work on situ, but they have frozen the hiring costs for, and I think it's till August. So,
The
work inside in the tea room, the restructuring of the company, you've never been in there. So it's been done very well. Who did that?
we just did I think the works team on one of those many rainy days. I think we did actually did some of the work.
Brilliant, really good job. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Anything you want to find, Alan, on the approval of payments?
No, just to thank the mayor for his patience and his support. He really is fantastic. Whenever I need something done, he actually does respond very quickly. So I really would like to table that as to thank him very much.
He's very quick at spending other people's money. Thank you. We need a proposer and a seconder for the approval of payments. I'm happy to propose. Ron's happy to second. Thank you very much. Personnel report, to receive and discuss the personnel report for the past 2 months. Again, that was in your packs. Thank you very much for pulling that together. Alan, anything you want to highlight?
I think we've, the recruitment, since we last met, we've recruited 2 new town team members. And from the sounds of it, they really assimilated into the team. One started on the 22nd of April, one started on the 29th of April. We have been exceptionally unlucky, tried to recruit a 3rd member for the team to basically take responsibility for cleaning the toilets and opening up some of the venues. We had interviews planned last Friday, 5 of them. We had a 0 attendance rate, so that was quite disappointing. So this morning we met with someone who's one of the local firms, and they put together a little bit of a proposal. They're quite confident that they'll get someone to us and they'll do it on a phased basis. So the longer you stay in, and then they'll just charge us a finder's fee if the person actually stays for a period of time. So we're just pursuing that as one of the options.
So they'll be a town council employee.
They will initially be, we might have to pay a contract. We've agreed a very reasonable rate. So I'm not too sure. I think what they've said to us is just keep them going and then transfer them. When you pay the transfer fee to us, transfer them to the town council. Because they don't want them to get all the benefits now. They want to have that as a bit of a carrot. So, for example, the pension fund and all that, which we are very, ours is very generous. They would actually say, well, if you keep this job for a period of time, you'll then move to the town council and you'll get these particular benefits.
Okay. I think I speak for, and correct me if I'm wrong, The aspiration is that they become a town council
They
employee.
will become a town council employee.
That's fine, as long as that's clear. David, sorry. Yeah, I think that's a pragmatic way forward, so I'm quite pleased about that. I've only met one of the new town team assistants, but I knew he was the new town team assistant because he was wearing his ID badge. So thank you very much for that. I knew who he was as soon as I met him. But the one I met, was great. So really pleased about that. So, just on the training, really pleased to see the staff have got ROSPA training, and I think actually to have all of them, the 4 that are there anyway, trained is really encouraging. And the planning training by Breckland, I thought was exceptional. I don't know how many, there wasn't many on the one I did the second week, but I think there were more people on the first week. I wonder if sometime in the autumn we could look to get them back to do a sort of a refresher, but also for those that missed it, get the date in the diary early, because it actually was really useful.
On that, I was speaking with Simon Wood earlier today.
Okay.
He and Becky Collins are going to widen that service out because of the great feedback they got and take it. Yeah, well, I would echo your comments. I'm going to take it around other places. So I think that would be a very good idea.
If I can also add, one of the things that we did do is to say to him, would you go through some of the planning submissions that we've done previously? So the ones that we where there's been decisions of variance, and it'd be very useful to get their input to say, well, if you'd said this or possibly done that, the planning officer may have considered, or at least we'll get some truth. So it's not for us to attack their decision making, it's rather for them to look at, review our inputs and make sure that they've been comprehensive and helpful.
If we could get it in the diary now and let councillors know early, I think that will help with the attendance for some. I mean, I would do it again because I found it so useful. I want to have a refresh in the autumn, and then hopefully those that didn't do it will be able to do it, because it was, I mean, you made the point, it's the sort of thing we should have had straight away last year.
Absolutely.
Anything else on personnel report, training, or recruitment side of things?
Just going back one little step, by the way, when a new councillor comes in, has just come in, that sort of training, planning, whatever else, because she comes to the meeting, would be nice to try and get any new member on into some training quickly. Yeah, because it's not just a planning. There's loads of other things that
Well, an induction pack more widely, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, I know Breckland do have an induction pack for councillors specifically to come in at by-elections, for example.
Yeah.
It's not something we've had here before, but I agree, because that training was delivered before that person even became a councillor. It was in April, day before the election. That's why a refresher, I think, would be really useful. Okay, so we're asked to note the personnel report. Moving on to 29, we've got the financial report for the year ended 31st of March. Is this complete, Alan, or is it still a draft?
It's 7 o'clock this morning. I think I got it as sweet as it was ever going to be. I just realised that even though we show a surplus of 4,000, we probably need to accrue for our HR consultants. I haven't accrued for them. That's the only one. So when they were sitting there and started talking, it was like, I may have to do an accrual for about, they promised to send me an invoice, which is frustrating, which they haven't done. So we haven't accrued it. So that would be in the region of about £5,000, I would think, because they're about halfway through their work.
Okay, the reason I asked that is because the narrative column on the spreadsheet hasn't been updated.
It hasn't. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just, I was trying to track the variances and try and understand them, but the narrative column is out of date.
it won't happen next month.
Well, no, that's why I asked if this is for the full year. I'm wondering if we should perhaps note it, but then go through it next month.
Sure.
Because I've got a few questions. One of them was on the HR consultants, because I think we were funding that from in-year rather than reserves, so.
We were funding that, so that would go into the expenditure, so like,
Yeah.
we were funding it from savings and salaries, to be honest.
Yeah, cool. Are you right if I ask a few questions?
Please, this is fresh.
The play parks column said that there was quite a significant overspend, and then when I looked at the variance, we didn't actually, because most of the expenditure on play parks was funded from reserves, there wasn't actually a huge amount in the end that we paid for ourselves.
I went through and did an analysis of it, and what we did is we did a lot of spending at the first half to the first 3 quarters of the year.
Yeah.
And we were doing big stuff that was actually identified as part of the survey that we've done. And I had just misallocated because it's quite difficult, particularly, and I'll use this as my excuse, amenities committee used to be very early in the month. So it really was a matter of doing that. So I've had the opportunity to go through about 5 or 6 codes and actually go through and interrogate each of those particular numbers. And we had actually put some of those big projects under the expenditure side, and they were actually deemed to be funded from the projects reserve.
Yeah, I was hoping that would be the case, because we've actually only overspent by £1,600 on play parks, and given some of the issues we've had with, with vandalism and stuff, I didn't think that was too bad. So good. The narrative said that the estimate for bad debts was likely to be 1,000, and I notice it's about £4,000 from memory.
I have to come back to the committee on that.
Okay.
I'm meant to follow that up today.
Okay.
I thought it was just, we had some problems. I think when the new council came in May, I had a chance to meet with you and actually explain to you that I think some of the market money have been misappropriated.
Okay.
But I think there might be something. There was one we've had a dispute with the cemetery person, because what happens is there's 2 charges if you're a resident or not a resident. And if they don't provide the documentation, they'll say, well, it was resident, and we sit there and have those fights. But I am a little bit worried myself, so I'll have a relook at that.
No, that'd be really useful. I found it. It's 4,196 for bad debts, and the narrative says no bad debts incurred.
Yeah.
About £1,000 expected. So that's how I knew the narrative was out of date. I just thought that was quite a lot for bad debts, because historically we don't have a lot of bad debts, which is useful. So yeah, I was going to ask for a breakdown, but if you're going to look at that. And then the other thing was the business rates in relation to Standing Forth Trust. I know that's been work in progress, but presumably there's no accounting for any of that in these figures, because we don't know what the figure is.
We don't know. I got so close to nearly finishing that, and then it's just one of those projects. I had to go home at one stage, because otherwise I'd have stayed all night. What the implication is that Standing Forth has been undercharged rather than we have been undercharged. So there's a chance that there'll be a recovery, but there's a lot of work to be done. I will meet with the Standing Forth Park shortly. She's very much aware of it. There's a whole lot of things we have to do with utilities, because there was a water leak. We ended up with significant sewage charges, which were unfair. Our electricity bills are just erratic. We've been trying to get smart meters in so that we can do that properly. So they go up and down, and we can't recharge some of that stuff when it comes in, because we make some of those tenants bankrupt. So there is a challenge around doing that. So we're going to have to sit down and do an exercise with on both electricity, water, sanitation, and gas.
Yeah. I'm quite keen that we do that, because as much as I understand the challenge, I don't think it's right that we're effectively subsidising Standing Forth tenants. So we need.
And they've slightly subsidised us because we haven't paid any charges for this council chamber, for example. So we've had, other than the rent, we've had no allocation of utilities for that.
That's fine. And then the last one, there's £200,000 of income related to grants, and approximately £200,000 of expenditure related to grants.
Okay.
I think it would be really useful, because there's such significant sums. I think the committee should have a separate report on grant funding, outlining who the grant funders are and what the expenditure relates to. And you gave me some of those figures straight away today, so the information is there. But are we claiming everything we're entitled to claim? Are we spending everything in accordance with the grants? is there any expenditure we're not claiming for that we should be, but actually the town council is picking up the bill? I mean, I've done a rough calculation myself from what you've given me, and we've spent less than we've had in grants, which is good. I expected us to be paying out stuff for grant funding that we haven't charged to grants, but actually it's the other way around. But just because it's quite a significant amount of money, I do think we should be just, overseeing that a bit more.
Point of interest, I actually asked that. Crikey, that's 6 months ago.
Yeah. Well, it's just, we've got a whole budget report here, and then there's a tiny little figure and it says £200,000 of grants, but no information. And I think we should probably look at that.
And it's just, and the response to it, it's not you, by the way, it's a grant coming in. Well, I want to know where it's coming from. I would like to know where it's coming from, what it's allocated to.
Yeah.
I think the master plan one is there's a slight timing difference. We recognised a little bit more income last year than we had incurred expenditure because we just have the way we split it. So the master plan is the easiest one to track. The hardest one is the Guildhall, because what happened is it was a lot of upfront loaded costs. So we incurred costs, we expensed them, and now we're getting back that revenue, but we couldn't just match it in the right period from an accounting perspective.
We need to see separate, it would be nice to see separate pots.
Yeah.
And say, all that money's gone in there, now it's coming out, or it hasn't gone in, but it's going to come in eventually.
Yeah.
And
The master plan one is actually lovely and simple because we got what we applied for and the town council only contributed 10k of its own funding. The Heritage Lottery Fund one for the Guildhall Carnegie is really complicated because they gave, and what I don't understand is they gave us an amount that was different to the original funding bid. So I'm not sure what we're committed to deliver and what we're not committed to deliver. Plus there were elements of town council in-kind contributions and town council cash contributions. So it's really unclear, and that's why I want to understand it a bit better to see what we've contributed and what external funders have contributed.
I think the other complication is that they were expecting external funders like the Sikhs to contribute, and I'm not too sure that they ever did. Rector Council did do their contribution a few years ago, so that's been blocked. But okay, all our claims, the Heritage Lottery Fund, get verified, so we have to submit all the supporting documentation. So the risk of us overclaiming is very remote because they would hold it to us. It's underclaiming, and
who's got responsibility for that? That doesn't seem like anybody in particular.
I'll see if I can get a report in terms of
It's
the
not,
next
it's
meeting.
not urgent. No, this
Yeah, if it's June or July, I don't mind, but I think it would be remiss of us not to look at that.
for clarity, sometimes
Nearly £250,000, so,
at Christmas.
That's it for my list. Anyone got any other comments or questions about the financial report? I mean, essentially there might be a bit of final tinkering. We've ended the year with a 30k underspend, but we've carried forward 25k to allow for the participatory budgeting, which I think is a really positive position to be in. And we've done a whole load of stuff on open space. I mean, Castle Park alone, I think, was £11,000 I saw on the figure, fixing all of that. I mean, that's been 10 years in the making, and a whole load more money on Barnham Common, which again is not a year's worth of work. It's several years of not doing stuff there that we've had to catch up on. So the fact that we've done all of that and still had an underspend is, is good.
I think we can refer to it as the competence bonus, can't we?
Thank you. So we are required to note the financial report. Everyone happy to note?
Yeah.
And then we'll get the final version next month.
Could I just make one point? Why I've done it this way is that what goes into the AGAR, which is the annual general account, they have a completely different set of accounting rules. So, for example, you don't count contributions to reserves. It just sits there. So you end up with very disparate figures between what we produce and what they do. But it's just, this is the basis for completing that document. So we'll table both of them at the next meeting, but then you're going to think that we've made up the figures when you look at the two documents. They are different, but there's reasons for that difference.
They're only interested really in the headline figures, and whereas we want that. Okay, so linked to the financial report, item 30, we have the schedule of reserves. And that's all listed there. We've spent various amounts, and we've actually contributed to reserves over the year. Is there anything you want to highlight on that one?
I think it's obviously the Guildhall property repairs at done the Guildhall, which has been quite significant. The other one has been the play parks. You know, we budgeted 80,000 over 2 years, and I think we've probably spent in the region of just over 100,000 over the 2 years. So it's you know, it's hopefully, just out of interest, we had someone from Compan come today to talk about sensory play parks.
Yeah.
And they actually had a debriefing meeting with me very quickly this afternoon. And they were actually very complimentary of the state of our play parks. They said we've actually, you know, the investment that we've made is maybe 1 or 2 pieces of equipment that needs attention. And we can actually claim a lot of inclusiveness without having to spend a lot of money. So that was quite encouraging.
The parish partnership money to Norfolk County Council, we've paid all of that over now.
That's back. That's, if you remember, we didn't pay for 2 years, so we had to do a little bit of backlog and cross fingers.
The 25 and the 10.
It's a 25 and 10.
Phase 1 and 2. Everyone happy with reserves? Are we pleased, David? We've spent quite a few of them.
That's what they're there.
Oh, we've got, what we got? Enhancements to the Berry Road allotments. We're now supplying water on Barnum Cross Common. I'm sure the animals are delighted. Purchased new computers, and we've done enhancement to the stairs at the Marketplace Guildhall. And we are required to recommend the schedule of reserves to full council, taking into account any amendments made under agenda item 2924 above.
You want to do this item with the?
Yeah, I think so. So we'll just note that at the moment and take that next month with the agenda. I hope you're going to be at the June full council meeting, but I won't be. So you'll be presenting the finance minute, the corporate services minutes.
Spend some time with Alan, haven't I?
Yeah. Because
Time out of my office and do some real work.
anything else, Alan, you want to say on financial report, schedule of reserves? Happy? Moving on to security for full council meetings, item 31. Alan's done a few notes in your pack to take us through this one.
I think, you know, at the end of the day, we have to do something. We had that debriefing meeting a few weeks ago. Emanating from that, the look at security was one of the issues. And the second one was to get some legal advice so we can look at the execution. I'm very pleased to say that we've actually signed the contract for the legal advice today. It's actually a very reasonable price. The security is just a matter of, do we actually employ security? I think there's 2 issues. One is to keep the council safe, but I think there's also, you know, I have a responsibility to Karen sitting in the corner there. Mm-hmm. She's at the full council meetings, and I've been chastised a little bit for putting the staff at risk. I also have staff outside, and it's really a matter of do we need to take steps to safeguard them? And I think that's really what it is. You know, I know some councillors are in favour of it and some councillors aren't in favour of it, but I think it's just a matter of we have to make the decision and take it from there.
If we agreed to this evening, is there a company that is able to provide us with security at full council next week?
I have been speaking to, I got recommended, I asked to follow up with West Sussex. Was their contractor. They went silent. They came back to me today to apologise. They've been off sick for a week. They will come back to me first thing tomorrow morning. I have a conference call, and I will get a backup company to see if I can procure them. If we make that decision, we will certainly have to, you know, it'll be a mandate for me to do that.
Okay. So the legal cost, that's just being funded from the ordinary professional and legal budget.
It's £750,000 plus VAT.
Okay. And the suggestion here is that the security cost is funded from general reserve as an interim measure until the revised budget is prepared.
How are we getting on with, we've got CCTV or whatever up in the corner over there. You've got a camera here, it's got microphones. How are we actually getting on with another one of those to actually film the proceedings?
We do film the proceedings. It was just through my oversight last month that didn't happen.
This way on, we need that.
No, we turn it around. We actually film the public.
That's what we need to do.
The second thing is we actually luckily had someone filming, a member of the public had asked to film, and they've actually given me a lot of the data. The police have asked for that, and they're following up. The third thing is, in order for the CCTV, we have to have a minimum of 3 quotes. So we've had 3 companies, because they can't just, phone in. We've had 3 companies come in, 2 quoted, the third one declined to quote. We had the third one, another company come in last week, and their quote is imminent.
Don't these work?
They do work, but they don't have sound, and they don't cover the newsroom, and they're really out of date and quite old. We need them all over. We need some in the Carnegie as well, and we also need some at our workshop, because one of these days our workshop's going to end up with we don't have staff there permanently.
That's really well.
So we're doing a bigger one. We can break it down in stages, but we're just looking for one.
But the next week, that can be turned around, can it?
It can and it will be turned around, yes. And I'll do it properly this time.
That's fine. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. So we're being asked to agree to the principle of having security and fund it from reserves.
I would be against security, but you must have already had this conversation. I wasn't present, but I would say security would antagonise the situation possibly.
I'm also against it, but I will go with the majority on it, and I'm quite happy to abstain and let other people with a stronger opinion have the opinion. Yeah. If the meeting is handled well, and like when the gentleman Rob Walker came from the council and said, if the members say suspend, then that's what needs to be done. The vote on it very, very quickly. If any of us say suspend, the vote on it quickly and deal with it.
It's actually the chairman's prerogative to suspend. There's no votes required.
Yeah.
I don't see how we can not have security. We've gone down this progress, this path of increasing what we do. If we don't have security, people will be at risk. I now feel very strongly that councillors and staff and members of the public are all at direct threat of intimidation and physical violence, possibly. Given all that, I don't see how we can not have security. If we want to go down the road of not allowing these people in, and I think we should, that's up to legal debate. If we want to remove these people, exclude them, we cannot do that anyway other than by refusing to let them in at the door. And that means security. It cannot be David Brooks who we rely on for security.
Another option, and I'm very, very strongly in favour of it, is we say no public questions.
I don't think that addresses the security issue.
It doesn't address the security issue, but if the people...
It enhances the security risk, actually.
The people that come in, if we say we're not going to allow public questions,
then they've won.
Again and again, after 3 months or 6 months, whatever, what is the point in them turning up? They're going to be filmed.
Yeah, I think they will just make more problems if we don't. You know, if you say, right, you can't come in, that's not going to make them quiet. It's not
come
going
in.
No, if you can't come in and ask questions. They're not going to go and just sit quietly in the corner, are they?
No.
But once they're in, you can't.
So just don't allow.
Yes,
questions.
but you can't. But you can't do if you don't allow questions, and you've got to have security there to stop them coming in. Otherwise, they'll just cause trouble. So
Well, we're trying to encourage questions in advance, aren't we?
yeah.
Happy with that?
But then they still cause trouble, don't they? Because they don't like the fact that those questions go first.
Yeah.
So whatever we do, they're going to cause trouble. I mean, we weren't at the last meeting, but I was at the meeting before, and that was bad enough. And I know it was a lot worse at the last meeting.
The very clear advice from the people advising us, both the police and Bracknell Council's monitoring officer, deputy chief exec, was to get security. And we've now got both members of the council, members of the public and staff who are raising concerns about their safety.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we have a choice. Chris?
I totally agree. I would never, ever agree with not having public questions, because that's what we do. Transparency is vital. The security must be paramount, and we must have a barrier to stop the people getting close to Terry like they did last time, so we have to move. Also, we've got to stop the idea that people could just walk in without signing in with their name, etc., even if it's the wrong, because under fire regulations, you have to sign in, because what if there's fire? How do we know who's here and who isn't? If they refuse to sign a name, then possibly we can say security don't let them in.
That will take hours, Chris. You know, we had 100 people here today, you know, or however many coming into the building for this participatory budget.
The rules are we have to take down, it's not academic, you know. Sorry, but the council safety comes first.
So the papers asked for the agreement to the principle of security and to fund that from the general reserve. Can I have a proposer to that effect? Chris Harvey and a seconder. Annie Blackburn, all those in favour? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? All those abstaining? Carried. You are a voting member of the committee, Terry, now.
Am I?
Yes. Oh, I know you usually sit there, and you are a fully member of corporate services.
Thank you for
This is a very important day.
You didn't even abstain.
So
You want to change that vote?
yeah, I think I will, just so Terry doesn't feel left out. So Chris proposed and Annie seconded to agree to security and fund it from the general reserve. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? All those abstaining? Carried.
Should so important.
And that includes a barrier.
It was like war of attrition. You just kept
Look at
turning
the
up.
very regard.
Could I request a caveat to that? Could there be some kind of press release advising the public that we feel that we need to spend money on security in future for our own personal safety, you know, that kind of thing, so that people know what's happening.
Is that giving them publicity though?
Well, it does.
There's going to be an article in the EDP this week about disturbances at our meeting, so it's kind of well publicised anyway, and they've been on to me today.
If that achieves what I'm asking, if that, you know.
Yeah.
That's,
I don't think we as a committee have the power to issue a statement on behalf of the council, would be my first concern. I think it's a role of full council to do that. So I'm quite happy for us to have a below the line agenda item at full council next week to review how it went and to determine if we want to put a statement out, if we think it's necessary to continue it.
okay.
Happy with that. Item 32, correspondence, to note and consider any other correspondence.
We have legal action against us for some lady who tripped over at Marford Common and broke her shoulder. So that came in yesterday. So that we'll be handing over to our insurers.
During the fairground, during the fair?
No, it's on the, I think it's on the upper, where people have been removing posts deliberately.
Oh, right.
So
Car barriers.
and then the barriers, and then they just put them on the side, and the lady has actually hurt herself there. So that happened in early May. So the papers arrived yesterday. So I'll be handing that over to the insurers. And the second one is there's just some model financial regulations for local councils that come through, and they're radically different to anything that I've seen before. So NOC has actually, really come to the party in terms of rationalising what they do.
When are we due for a review of our financial regs?
We only reviewed them quite recently, so we've got to wait about another 4 months. Unless there were 5 councillors, 6 sign 7 clear days before the next finance committee meeting.
Which I'm not suggesting we need to do, but when we do get round to reviewing financial regs, we can compare and discount as necessary. Any other correspondence?
No.
Moving on to action points, to review and discuss action points.
This is the height of my embarrassment because it seems to get longer rather than shorter.
Well, we might be able to take some off today. You never know. I'm being optimistic. Thetford Town Council website is still being developed and policies are to be added to the website once the update is completed.
That website does look very good, significantly better than it was a year ago. Thank you to those involved.
What I've agreed with Alan is that now this committee has the communication responsibility, we'll have a more communication focused discussion at next month's meeting. Because obviously this one's quite finance heavy because we have a finance meeting in April. So we'll leave that one on there for now and probably get an update on that then.
I think it's sort of part of it. We're supposed to be having a SharePoint facility for councillors, aren't we? Can we chuck that in with that, please?
I was going to say it under my committee officer's update. There's a whole lot of security issues that we have to address on the SharePoint issue, so it'll be part of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Second item there, risk management. A methodology to quantify this risk has now been developed. The calculations will be done, and it is hoped that this task will be ready before the next financial risk assessment review is completed. When is the next financial risk assessment review?
11 months from now, 10 months from now.
So we're going to leave that one.
We'll leave that one, yes. As soon as we get some capacity, I think a number of these issues will be addressed quite quickly.
The finance officer to investigate the rates for the council chamber as these seem high. And we've touched upon that already in the meeting this evening. Leave that one as it is. There is a need to develop a local procurement policy in the autumn. In process, supplier information being disaggregated to ensure location can be easily determined.
And it is this coming autumn that we retired, not last autumn. So,
yes. I'm just thinking when we next review our terms of reference, we need to add local procurement policy to our list of policies that come to this committee. Meter readings to be obtained at the financial year end, to be done as at 31st of March. Was that done?
I think for most of them they were, because the readings actually coincided with the year end. We had some new, with the bottom common, we had some new meters come in. We only got the bills going back to January come in very recently. So those obviously went done.
So we can take that one off.
Take that one off.
Yay.
Could you take the next one off as well?
Planning training. Ha! Take that one off. But we have made a note to do the refresher, but we don't need to add that. Minutes to be approved by full council. Chair still finalising.
That's on the full council agenda.
Do you want to update members, just so it's not a surprise next week?
Yeah. So what happens? There was a lot of silence throughout the winter. They really didn't respond to us. I approached them quite recently. I put the offer that the town council that we had proposed, which was really to help them invest in the market square or marketplace. They've come back. We gave them our costs. They went and looked at their costs, what they were paying. They've come back and they've agreed to a 48% allocation of our costs, a little bit of recognition, and they will increase that in line with the rest of the rents, the 5-year rent review. So I thought that was quite a positive outcome, and they've agreed to the rest of the terms. So as soon as we approve this full council list next week, we'll let them know and the legal work will start.
Will that be an agenda item or a recommendation
No,
from the committee?
it's a recommendation from the committee because it's no different. What the recommendation said is investment in the market square. We couldn't quantify what that investment was, we can now quantify that as 48% of the costs of the planters and maintaining the Market Square watering net uplink.
38%.
38%. My age.
That's
That's a real win, isn't it?
It's to get Wetherspoons to contribute to the upkeep of the wider Market Square and the floral displays. I think it's really positive because we do put a lot of effort into that as a town council. And if they're going to continue to operate outside, they are a big beneficiary of that, I think. So.
Yeah, and we don't govern by Facebook. I did notice a post the other day with regard to the water fountain, which I think is brilliant. Somebody going on about that and was saying, Wetherspoons pay for it, blah, 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 or don't pay for it, or they're going to do this or going to do something. It's a bit of a slap back at them, isn't it? That sort of thing.
Just for councillors' benefit, 'cause some of you might not know, that bottle tap or water tap was part of the Heritage Lottery Fund. It wasn't our cost at all. It was funded by the lottery, not even by us.
So it didn't cost us
It cost us a penny.
Well, I think somebody should go on Facebook and point that
It was a
out.
drop in the ocean.
The tap is very fragile, though. The tap is very fragile.
Is it?
Yeah, it's very easily breakable, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because
Well, don't go and break it then.
no, it's just its leverage.
Right, back to the task at hand. So we can strike that one off as well. That's free.
I'll have a look at my legal shape.
Competitive quotes on credit card transactions to be obtained, to be timed with the expiry of the rental of the current credit card readers. When is that expiry?
They were, I think, 2 years. So we just started in year 2.
Okay,
It's about that time.
so we'll leave that on there. Programme to develop a timetable for review of the council policies to be prepared, in process, key policy timetable being present.
And we're doing it through the terms of reference where
Yeah.
each committee will then develop a timetable that fits their schedule because
Yeah.
that I think will be more logical.
When we develop that timetable, could we include dates of when the policy was last reviewed so that we can triage it and make sure we deal with the oldest first?
Yeah.
So we'll leave that on there until that appears. Committee officers to list all the items of what is owned by the town council to assist in the possible relocation to the Guildhall complex. Committee officers to approach GW Staniforth Charity to lease the strong room. Now, the second part of that, rather, the strong room, that's been dealt with, hasn't it?
No, it hasn't. Still got to go to the board. We as officers
Yeah.
have to meet and make a recommendation
Okay.
I have to make a recommendation to the town council and the clerk has to make a recommendation to the board.
Okay.
The first part is I've had to cancel the meeting twice to actually go there and measure everything out. So they've done a little bit of measuring in this building just to actually just get that inventory from King's House and get that in place.
Okay.
This is for the regalia, is it?
This is for the pictures on the wall. They've got some ideas and everything else that's in that building that's of value. So there is a chair, for example, and there's certain things in the council chamber.
I am quite keen. Appreciate everyone's busy. I always feel like when I come into this room, it feels like a storeroom.
Yes.
And we do need to move it towards a council chamber where there's not stuff laying around and the cupboards are empty and stuff like that. So I am keen that we get, proper table and stuff like that.
Related issue, perhaps. When are we all getting our photograph done?
Or sitting around the table.
Yeah.
Well, we need to have a debate. Several of us have been having a conversation about the council photos that go up the stairs and how it's been more than a decade since there was a big group photo. I think we should probably do it in the old council chamber before we move here.
And then do it again here.
We need to have a conversation about that.
Yes, we do.
But there is a view that people want a group photo. The things people talk
What are you
about.
looking like that for, Councillor Hartley?
Not like this.
Well, you don't feature on one. You don't feature on one. You joined too late. Okay, so we'll leave that one on there for now. I think the shredding has at least been done, hasn't it? The shredding, the archiving and shredding of council records. Oh, I thought they'd made some progress on that.
The amount of stuff we have in this building is.
You need a lorry.
I'm fine, it's coming.
Yeah, no, there's no cupboard space. So what's happened is stuff is in the corridors. It's really dangerous. So there's
Specialised services, they have big trucks, you just wheel it.
Well, I think the stuff at King's House, that's actually what will happen, most of that stuff. I mean, some of it's got on the outside of it to be destroyed 2017, you know, it's like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just been sitting in there. So I'm not worried about that.
The staff and the councillors were really on top of things back then, weren't they?
Right, we'll leave that one on there. The second one I think we can remove, which is community engagement.
Yes.
There are still some aspects of the budget that were adopted that we haven't written press releases about, which have been a bit frustrating. But I'm happy to liaise with Hazel Doyle to action that.
60 is the same, it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, done. That can be removed. Chair to the ACE, done. So those last two can be removed as well. That is 6 coming off that list, Alan. I think there might actually be 1 page left now.
That's a record.
Any other action points that anyone wants to comment on or raise? Nope. Good. 34/24 community engagement to discuss and agree any consultation or media release required. None, but noting Ron's point about a press statement that might be agreed at council. Committee officers update, anything other than somebody hurting their shoulder?
There's 2 things. One is you'll see that logging of complaints isn't here. And that was just an oversight on my behalf. Karen and I were both working on the agenda through SharePoint, and we accidentally deleted the agenda, so we had to reinstate it. So I take full responsibility for that. It's just an oversight for this meeting. We have had a complaint logged against Stuart Wright and myself. It goes on for about 6.5 minutes. It's incoherent, and I've just ignored it.
It's a verbal complaint.
It's a verbal complaint. The person is called Keith, and that's all that they've given us. No number, no name, and part of our complaints procedure is that you have to provide that information as a minimum. So I've just consent to this committee just to update. I'm just ignoring that. If someone can't, and when the complaint is that I've wasted police time, I'm not too sure that it's within the mandate of this particular committee.
The last.
It's basically a thing, but it's Keith.
You noted it, you haven't ignored it. You've put it to one side until it's put in a formal manner.
Well, I've kept it on my message service, so if I ever feel depressed, I play it and it makes me feel a little bit better.
I think our complaints policy requires it to be in writing anyway.
Yeah.
So from our point of view as a committee, we only really need to be informed if it's a formal complaint in writing. So you deal with it how you feel fit if it's a verbal complaint.
And then the last thing is just on the IT security. What I'm going to do is that not all the councillors are using let me start again. All the councillors are using email addresses, but not all of them are necessarily have the right security protocol for us to move to SharePoint. So what I've done is I've been speaking to Curtis, and you will likely get some correspondence where they might just ask you to fill in a form. What is your security profile? How to use it? How do you access it? And what to avoid, so that we can then get that finish that process, and that will happen quite. I'm just waiting for them to give me the information.
Any questions, comments on committee officers' updates? No. Item 36/24 to consider.
You don't need to do it because there's nothing under
No recommendations.
37.
Then I'll shut up. There being no further business, the meeting is closed. Thank you very much.
Give me a chance to close the recording.
Before we all start gossiping.